Cool, I think it's recording. All right, so this will be an overview, just showing some of the use cases around QoS, how to track routing loops or asymmetric routing, how to use LiveNX to monitor SD-WAN environment. So, feel free to ask any questions as I go through, but what we're looking at is really the engineer interface of LiveNX. You can see have some circles, they have some clouds, they have some end users. The circle, every time you add a device into the solution, we'll discover it as a circle, and this will represent that network device. It could be a switch, a firewall, a load balancer. And then the interfaces will be shown. So any key interfaces that you'd like to monitor, we'll discover those and show them on a topology map. And we will also monitor the health of the interfaces. So let's say an interface is having issue or QoS drop. We'll turn it amber to help you find problems really easily. So really easy way to just monitor the health of the network using the topology. And then the end users too are here. So the end users are great for monitoring the type of traffic. So let's say I have voice call going through the network. We'll be able to assign that IP to an IP phone, for example, and then we can track a phone call through the network using this network objects. And then if I zoom out, you can see we have a lot of space here. So as far as monitoring, number of network devices, LiveNX can support up to 40,000 devices. And you can see if I zoom out, I can actually go into a specific site by right-clicking on the site name and tell LiveNX to zoom to that site. So you could drill down to a specific interface directly from the global view. And then also what we have is we have the quality of service tab up here. So we have different tabs on the top. So the QoS is great for monitoring, configuring quality of service. We have the audit button. So the audit report basically will go out and read all the quality of service policies that you have on the network, and it will tell you if you have any issues within those policies, if you have quality of service drops, if you have empty classes or mismatch statement within those classes. So it'll all be showing within this audit report. And then we have different tabs also. You have the flow, where we monitor the flow data, so we can actually we have different filters up here. So you can see I have all the flow types. We can ingest flow from any device that can export flow. We can also ingest performance flows from Cisco devices like MediaNet and AVC. MediaNet is great for monitoring voice and video. AVC is great for monitoring TCP conversations. So we can say, this application is slow because, it wasn't a network. It was the application delay. So we could basically use this data to monitor the health of the applications. We also have a DVR built into the solution. So let's say a user was having a problem Friday at a specific time. We can go back in time and search for that user. We also have filters that users can create. So let's say I have critical traffic that you want to monitor within the network. We can create filter based on the range of IPs, a subnet, a DSCP value, a port range, and then we could filter down to that data we want really easily. We also have the top 10 or the top 100 or the top 50 conversations that we can show directly on the topology map. And then the last filter is more like a troubleshooting filter. So let's say I want to look at the traffic by performance, maybe by rate, maybe you want to look at the busiest conversations, maybe you want to look at the DSCP. Let's say you just deployed QoS and you want to validate your QoS policies. The DSCP filter will basically show us all the DSCP markings. And then from here, what I could do, I can actually start applying filters. So let's say I just deployed a QoS that's protecting my voice. I can actually apply a voice filter, and this will show us all the DSCP markings for that voice traffic. And one of the issues that we run into all the time, every time we deploy LiveNX, we always see, voice traffic or critical traffic not marked correctly. And then you can see I have a voice filter set up, but I can see that I'm seeing best effort traffic going through the network. And then also we have the table view. So the table is a great place when you want to look at conversations. So the source IP, destination IP, the port numbers, the application name, the DSCP value, and then the bandwidth information. And then you can filter or sort by color, and you can see all the best effort traffic. So you can see here's my VoIP application running best effort. And what I can do every time I click on a specific IP, LiveNX will basically highlight the path of the IP. So you can see there's actually turning black in the background. So it's actually highlighting the path of that specific conversation on the network. Okay, and then you can always search for specific data. We have a question mark here that has all the syntax you need. So let's say you want to search for a site. Maybe you want to search for a specific DSCP. Maybe you want to look at the traffic sourcing from a specific IP or go into a specific IP. You could do all that using the syntax. And the syntax is actually great for troubleshooting. So let's say a user was having a problem Friday at, 12:04, I could basically put in the date and time and search for that specific user that was having a problem. It could be a port, a source IP or a destination IP or an application. And then LiveNX will filter down to that specific user, and you can see it is a QoS problem that we're seeing. Actually seeing red and blue. Red will be EF, and then blue will be best effort. And this is a voice filter that I'm looking at. So this is a voice call going through the network, and I'm seeing DSCP mismarks. You see that this user actually marked the traffic correctly from the source, and it went through the MPLS to the data center, came back as EF, but when we got to the MPLS cloud, we dropped to best effort. So you can really easily track the DSCP marking through the network. And then we also have the table view. So the table view basically will tell us, we have the different tabs up here too. So you can see the basic flow will tell us the source IP, destination IP, the application name, the DSCP. We also have that MediaNet data to be able to look at performance metrics, jitter, packet loss. I can see this user is actually having 12% of packet loss. If I double click, LiveNX will go out and read the configurations, and we have a table view that basically displays SNMP, basic flow, and the performance flows all within one view. So you can see the application name, looking at VoIP, I see the CPU for the devices, I see the interfaces in line with that conversation, I see jitter, packet loss, DSCP information, I see best effort, I see EF on this device. And what I can do, I can actually show the path of that phone call or that VoIP application on my topology. So you can see we're actually starting green, we get to the service provider and we turn red. And then really the powerful thing about LiveNX is you can monitor and troubleshoot. So let's say you notice that this is passing through an Amber interface. I can actually double click on the Amber interface, switch to the quality of service policy tab, and here we'll be able to display all the applications. So you can see Citrix, RTP, SIP traffic. Down here, we're looking inside the QoS policy. So every time you see an Amber class, that means we're dropping traffic. And I see that my video, my voice class are Amber. And what I can do, I can actually right-click on the class and then display how much drops I have. And then the cool thing here, I can actually right-click on the class and adjust the queue size directly from here. So what it's doing now, it's loading the device configuration. Here's a class name, the queue settings, reserve bandwidth. Let's say my voice queue is running at 18%, and I want to change that. I can do that directly from here. So let's say I want to give my voice queue 30%. Maybe I want to change my video queue to 30% too. I can do that from here. And here's a CLI. And you notice here we're not ripping and replacing the policy. LiveNX is really smart, and what it did is actually went inside the policy and is changing the queue size from 45 to 75. And if that looks good, you can actually save it directly from the GUI. So we have a save to device. So if we have CLI access to this device, we can actually push the commands using SSH or Telnet. But this is a demo environment. We're not going to push any commands. Just wanted to show you how you can basically use a topology map to find a problem, track the problem through the network, and then fix it. Any questions about the...
No, this is good stuff. This is stuff I wanted to see, and all that. And I'm glad you went right through it. You were precise with it because that was only about 12 minutes. So I'll be able to go back and watch this video again, and then pause it and try to find, follow you along in our lab environment as well. So looks good so far.
All right, great. So what I've been showing you so far is basically the flow tab, and this is you'll be using the flow tab, I'll say maybe 80% of the time, because you can track all the conversations, find asymmetric routing using the flow tab. We also have the QoS, where you actually will review your QoS policy. So let's say you have a customer that has quality of service on their network, and then where you can go in and right click on a device, and then LiveNX will go out and read the configs of that device, and it will display a GUI that has all those policies. You can see here's a QN policy, a set DSCP. You can edit the policies using this GUI. So let's say you have a voice class that you want to edit. Maybe you want to add new match statement to it. I can actually hit edit here. And then it can start matching. Let's say you have a specific ACL that you want to add to your voice class. I can add my voice audio ACL. Maybe you want to add a specific match using InBar. I can add, select all the audio or all the voice applications and add them as a match statement. So basically what you can do with this, you can do all your, QN marking, all the advanced QoS configs, and then every time you make a change, LiveNX will actually create a CLI in the background, and then once you're done with a specific policy, you can actually save it to that device. And then let's say you have another 100 router running the same policy, you can actually grab that policy and update all the other devices on the network really easily. So really quick way to kind of make sure your quality of service is consistent through the network. And then also you can create a new policy. So let's say you've been using LiveNX for 3 months and you're really, they're more like you're like an advanced user. You can actually create policies, brand new policies using this GUI. Or let's say you want to pick one of the templates. We're a Cisco partner and we work really closely with Cisco engineers, and we have over 25 simple and advanced templates built into LiveNX that you can use. And let's say you go through and you see it's loading the templates now. And we have all the way from like a 12 class, policy down to like a 3 class policy. So let's say you go through these policies and you see one that works. I can click on it and hit next. I can adjust the shaping bandwidth, hit next. Here's the policy details. Another cool thing is you always have that preview CLI. So let's say you want to copy this and paste it and then make changes to it. You can do that. Or if this looks fine, you can actually hit next, and LiveNX will go out and just push that policy for you. Okay, and as far as the flow tab, we have the topology view where we display all the flow traffic through the network. We also have a device view. So let's say you're interested in monitoring one of the devices. I can double click, and LiveNX will basically show us all the net flow data passing through that device. So you can see the protocol, the source IP, destination IP, the application name. Let me show you a trick here, or how you can filter on a specific data. So let's say you're interested in SIP traffic. I can right click and apply the SIP traffic to the search. So instead of typing flow.app equals SIP, you can actually just right click on the SIP application and apply it to the search. Let's say you want to add a specific port number. You can right click and add the port number. So you can basically add specific data to the search by just right clicking on the flows. And then also, within this view, what you can do, let's say you have SIP traffic, you're looking at the DSCP, and maybe you saw there is a SIP traffic running best effort. I can right-click on the SIP application, and I can create an ACL that I can use for my quality of service policy. And then you also have a playback option. So this is more like a DVR built in to LiveNX. So let's say I want to replay all the flow traffic that was traversing this device. I can, put in the date and time, let's say Friday at a specific time, hit play, and LiveNX will basically replay all the net flow data. So this is more like a live net flow report that you can monitor. Okay, and as far as the other tabs, so we have the routing tab that's really great for routing performance. You can basically monitor asymmetric routing loops. So what you can do here, you can select the source and a destination, and then you can track a route through the network. Maybe you want to look at all the routes going to a specific destination. I can right click on one of the network objects and use them as a a source, a destination IP, and then I could see all the routes going to that specific destination. If you have a source that you'd like to monitor, you can also put in the source destination, and you can track a route through the network. We also have different protocols that we can monitor. So let's say you're interested in static protocol, you can basically select the protocol that you want to monitor, and if you hit update, LiveNX will basically show us all the protocols that we want to monitor. And if you double click on one of the routers, this will basically show us the routing table for that router.
So real quick question here, because of the routing tab. So a lot of this stuff I went through and I dug through it. The routing table is the one I found was the weakest. Like, okay, there's a ton of QoS and flow stuff. You just really have to dig down and know what you're looking at. Now, the routing one I kind of thought was like, okay, it's cool, but a few things were like didn't seem to get all the way. One is if you click on one of those devices and view the routing table, I noticed the most it will show is 200. So we have some MPLS routers that have 363 routes on them. And is there any way to actually say like next or show me the next set of 200? Because I couldn't find any way to do that. So it still was handy because I could get a good snapshot of the routing table, but I could not see the entire routing table.
That's a great point. Let me take a note of that and see if that's a limit on the Java client itself, or is there? Because the route. So the main tabs are the QoS and the flow. We've added the routing just to kind of give you some extra visibility, but they're not as robust as the flow or the QoS.
Okay, yeah. Cool. And so that's kind of what I found. Then also the other thing I found is when going to the routing tab and then going to the next hop, right now you're on the protocol, but go to the next hop one, and filling in an IP address that I know is on the network and say find route. It didn't find it in all the devices. It wouldn't find it all necessarily, but I think that may be a limitation in how we have deployed LiveNX in one of our environments, meaning it may not necessarily know about it. So I won't tangent on that one too much. But I noticed on some of that stuff it didn't show it. Now, if I use an IP like a common subnet, we have an IWAN overlay, which is a /24, then it would definitely find it. But some of the other stuff, which I know was still in the routing table, I thought it would still at least route to the location, and there were some odds with it. So,
yeah, that's a great point, and I will definitely recommend using NetFlow data for that. So what you can do, if you have NetFlow enabled on those devices, we can definitely show the path using NetFlow. So if you want to track specific source destination, or you want to track a specific IP through the network, I think the flow tab is a great place to be.
Okay. So because we only have 10 more minutes here. So one thing is I think I'm good on the IPSLA tab, but that one I've got that one pretty good.
Okay.
The ones I want to focus more on are QoS and flow. This just came to my head now as we're talking about routing. So we're going to be using it for IWAN. So as everyone knows with IWAN uses performance-based routing. So what I would like to know is there a way for me to show in the flow or QoS on this network map, let's say I have a user that said 2 days ago we had really terrible call quality going on at this location. Is there a way for me to filter out this stuff or show it to say, okay, this is the source of the traffic going towards some destination. Show me how it was routing, because, traditional routing is going to say, well, if my MPLS is up, I'm going to use that because it's the preferred route, but if it's down, then I'll use a backup route. But with IWAN, it could use the performance routing and say, well, this one broke a threshold, so we're going to flop it over to a different overlay. So it may utilize that. So I just want to say, is there a way that I could see that traffic to say, oh, yeah, back in historical time, this phone call was going over the MPLS, and then for a 30-minute period, for whatever reason, it flopped over to use the internet, DMVPN. Is there a way to see that?
Absolutely. And that's one of the use cases that most of our customers use this solution for, making sure your IWAN environment is doing its job. So what you can do here, so you notice, just like how you mentioned, this is what I'm looking at now. I'm looking at the iWAN voice EF, so I'm just looking at a voice traffic going through the MPLS. And then every time a problem happens within your iWAN environment, LiveNX will send you an alert saying, oh, this class of service was affected. This EF class was having problems. And then we have a dashboard that actually monitors the health of your iWAN environment. And then you can look at this dashboard, for the last hour, 6 hours, 4 hours, or specific. We actually have a report that relates to this data that you can actually put in a custom date and look at this data. But let's say you're looking at these alerts and you see there is a problem between Tokyo and Sydney. I could double click on the dashboard, and then this basically will open up a report that will have all the data I need to understand why that site is having a problem, or why those two sites are having problems. So I can see I have some loss between Tokyo and Sydney. Now I want to know which application was having a problem. I can actually right click on the site name and then drill down and look at the alerts by app group, and then I can clearly see that my voice EF is the one that was having a problem. And then what I can do next is I want to understand which service provider was causing the problem. So what I can do here, I can actually right click on the voice EF and run a report alerts by service provider, and then I can clearly see that my MPLS is the one that was having a problem. So what I can do next is use this data to verify if iWAN rerouted the traffic. So let's say today at 12:20 we were seeing some loss, so let's validate the path. So I can come back to the topology map and say today, this at 12:20, show me the path that my voice EF was taking. And then I do see that iWAN did actually move all that traffic from the MPLS to the internet path. So this is one of the use cases. And then if you want to find out which users were affected, you can always use that MediaNet data. So let's say I was having problems at 12:20. I can basically go back to that time and then go to the MediaNet report and then run a jitter loss report. And this will basically show me all those users, the packet loss, the jitter information. So I can see some packet loss, jitter. So I know, so you have the net flow data, the alerts, and then the performance data that can basically help you, understand what was going on within that iWAN environment.
Okay. So going back to that, the map view that you selected, well, there was a filter in there. Is that a built-in iWAN voice EF? Is that a built-in one, or did you have to create that?
No, this is the one I've created for my demo. But you can always create your own filters. So let's say you're protecting EF with iWAN. You can basically just go to the filters and say create a new filter. And then I can say this is my EF traffic. And then I can add a match statement. And then I can call this EF. And this will basically filter down to all the EF traffic on my network. So you can create these filters really easily. There's all my EF. Cool. All right. So what I've basically been showing you is the Java client. Have you been looking at the web UI much?
Not tremendously, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I clicked on the little 3-bar thing on the left-hand side, and then click Site, and you could drill down in and click on a site, click on a device, click on a router, click on a router, then click on an interface, and then scroll down and you can see packets dropped and all those different graphs and stuff.
Absolutely. So really, the web UI is great for dashboards, and reporting. And then, one of the dashboards that customers can use for day 0. So let's say they want to pick up the pilot sites for an SD-WAN environment. This WAN dashboard is great. So you can basically look at what we do here is we break the WAN into 3 different dimensions. You have the sites, the applications, and then the service provider. So you can use this for day 0, being able to understand the utilization for the applications, the sites, the service provider. And then from here you have the day 1. So This is more like a day one SD-WAN monitoring, so you can basically look at the utilization between the sites, the bandwidth, and then let's say Tokyo and Sydney is your IWAN site. I could basically drill down and look at the traffic going between Sydney and Tokyo, and I can see the application name, the DSCP, the service provider, and then the status of the application. And then what I can do, I can actually hit play, and this will basically show me any route changes or path changes within my SD-WAN environment. And then you also have...
Yeah, I saw that. How is it that you got here? How did you get here? I mean, I've seen this before. They showed this, but I couldn't figure out how you got to this piece here.
Yeah, so you go to the site-to-site analysis.
Okay, it's under the stories, that's what. And the stories, I believe, from what I was told, that's things you guys are working on or are kind of like new to the product. So, like, this is a newer function under the stories. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
These are more like workflows for like different, use cases: SD-WAN, capacity planning, security. All right, and then you have the day two. So being able to understand the utilization, the bandwidth changes, the capacity planning. So you can see this is the WAN interface capacity. So this will basically look at the site names, the devices within those sites, and then the key interfaces that you're monitoring. And this will basically track the utilization month over month, so you can see the utilization for last month versus this month. We also track the CPU changes and the memory changes. And let's say you see an interface that's using more bandwidth, you can actually drill down, and this will give you all the information you need to understand why that interface is using more bandwidth. So the interface bandwidth report, interface errors, interface utilization, quality of service. I don't have any input drops, but I do see some quality of service drops. Applications, inbound, outbound, the top talkers, who's consuming all that bandwidth, down to the DSCP for those applications, and then all the source IPs and the destination IPs. And then you have basically the reports here lastly. So you can, the good thing about the reports within the web UI is you can create advanced reports. So let's say you want to share a specific data with a customer, you can basically come to this GUI, and then you can grab QoS report. You can add a bandwidth report to it. You can add top talkers to it. So you can pick up some really specific data that you can share with the customers or others on the network. All right, I think that's it regarding a demo. Just I know there was a lot of data and we only had about 30 minutes, but we're here to support you every time you have questions or you want to go over some specific use cases. We're happy to help.